Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, police crack down on both anti-Jew and anti-Arab violence in the capital. Prime Minister Netanyahu faces a massive overnight upset in the Knesset, and Greece opens its doors to Israeli tourists amidst an incredible landmark military drill. A disgusting display in Jerusalem Sunday and Monday as Jewish-Arab tensions rising in the city. Police arresting 6 Jewish suspects allegedly connected to a number of anti-Arab attacks. The suspects accused of having assaulted an Arab man and throwing stones at supposedly Arab vehicles. Witnesses describing a mob of young religious Jewish men making their way through downtown Jerusalem, questioning passers-by and attacking those with Arabic accents. Meanwhile, footage of the supposed mob showing dozens chanting "Death to Arabs" and other racist slogans until police arrived on scene to give chase. This incident coming after massive anti-Israel and anti-Jewish riots in both Jerusalem and in South Tel Aviv, however, coinciding with the Muslim holy month of Ramadan and a string of recent indiscriminate attacks against Jews, Palestinians filming themselves and sharing videos on social media of clashes with police and assaults. The latest example being from Monday evening when a Haredi Jewish teen can be seen riding his bike in Jerusalem before 3 Arab youths come into frame and accost him before running away. Security forces fearing that the tensions are only on the rise. Now, on a personal note, I myself and everyone at ILTV unequivocally condemn all of the violence against civilians and the hate speech, both against Jews and against Arabs. It's disgusting, it's unjustifiable, racist, and it serves only to divide the country. I pray only that the perpetrators on both sides are held to account and are punished to the full extent of the law. Meantime, here to discuss the issue further, Deputy Mayor of Jerusalem, Fleur Hassan Nahum. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, what's going on?
Well, what we see here is a combination of tensions for different reasons. We've got a very fraught political situation at the moment, a lot of insecurity. Nobody knows what's going to happen. We have a dynamic change. All of a sudden, Arab parties are being seriously considered by all parts of the political spectrum as partners in government. And I think that kind of unsettles certain people. We have young people who, for some reason, and this is something that saddens me, incredibly saddens me, social media, instead of becoming a tool for good, a tool for connection, is being used as a tool for violence. And it's popular. And that, to me, is very, very worrying. And of course, we unequivocally condemn violence on both sides. Both Arabs and Jews are residents of Jerusalem, and they all deserve safety and protection. And this is what we're working very hard to do in Jerusalem.
So again, I have to follow up. Is Jerusalem and Tel Aviv's multicultural respect on a downward spiral, or is it being blown out of proportion by the media? What have you personally seen on the ground when talking to civilians or dealing with the situation?
Look, ultimately, there are clashes. That's what's actually going on, and the media is reporting what's going on. But I also see the wonderful side of all sorts of partnerships on a day-to-day. In Jerusalem, almost 40% of our population are Arabs. I work in City Hall. We have 11,000 City Hall workers, a few good 1,000 Arab colleagues that we work with every day. We run civil society initiatives. We run cultural initiatives. We run business initiatives. I see the good side. And then, of course, I see also the violent side, mainly from TV. But, I have more of a balanced view. And I see that, for example, during the Corona times, when we had a common enemy, we banded together, we set up volunteer forces together, and those relationships that we created a year ago during the Corona are relationships that are still going strong. So yes, we have a rise in violence, and maybe because it's of the Ramadan, the elections, and so many of these moving pieces. But on the other hand, I also see something else. I see that we're also slowly going through our own Abraham Accords internal process here in Israel, and we can't ignore that.
All right, so I'll give you another minute. Maybe could you expand a little bit about some of the programs currently in the works to restore calm and unity?
So ultimately, the way that we've been working with East Jerusalem is not from a top-down approach. It's always from, let's find the local leaders, let's find the local influencers, whether they be religious or be civil society leaders, and let's work with them because they know their communities better than us. This non-paternalistic way of dealing with East Jerusalem has borne incredible fruit. You know, this is why I can't help but be optimistic, even though we have these horrible clashes. 3 weeks ago, we opened up the first ever youth center in the neighborhood of Shuafat in East Jerusalem, with the mayor of Jerusalem going there and opening up and creating a way of bringing much more resources for the young people of East Jerusalem. So these are the things I'm seeing. I'm seeing more than ever young Arab engineers in colleges and universities of Jerusalem. I'm seeing more Arabs in high tech in Jerusalem. And not only I'm seeing it, we're pushing forward programs in order to ensure integration, also cultural and also professional. And so I can't help but be optimistic. And of course, we have to have a very, very firm hand with the troublemakers and the violence. Remember, these are the extremes. These are not the mainstream. Let's not judge the good people of East Jerusalem and the Jews of Jerusalem in the eyes or with the lens of the extremist troublemakers.
All right, and with that, thank you so much for joining us, Deputy Mayor Flora Hassan Nahum. Back to politics now. A major upset in the right-wing character of the Knesset. Prime Minister Netanyahu's Likud party losing an important vote on the formation of the Arrangements Committee. Committee chair and Likud MK Miki Zohar then saying that the defeat officially signals the Likud party's path into the opposition.
Yair Lapid, Be'ad.
A fairly dry and seemingly unimportant procedural vote leading to a huge turn of events as the Prime Minister's Likud party loses control of the Arrangements Committee, and this mirroring Netanyahu's crisis in finding potential coalition partners amidst the ongoing political deadlock, as a motion floated by rival Yair Lapid of the Yesh Atid party was adopted, giving stronger representation on the committee to the anti-Netanyahu bloc. The Arrangements Committee is the first to be formed by a vote in Knesset after every election, and it's in charge of both deciding what other committees need to be formed, as well as who will sit in them. It also controls the legislative agenda between Knesset factions. Committee chair and Likud member Miki Zohar then reading the apparent writing on the wall, saying, "We understand and internalize that we are on the way to the opposition, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu will lead the opposition, but we will go with our heads held high." Of course, that said, the newly formed group proceeded to shut down any of Zohar's proposals, and Zohar allegedly responded by refusing to bring any other proposals from the anti-Netanyahu bloc to a vote, adjourning the committee panel and leaving many committees without chairpersons and the Knesset speaker without any deputies. Meanwhile, adding to the pro-Netanyahu bloc's worries, Attorney General Mandelblit saying that there is no basis to declare Netanyahu unfit to serve as prime minister yet. The Attorney General acknowledging that legally and in spite of his trials, there is no reason Netanyahu cannot continue, but adding that Netanyahu's recent alleged attacks on law enforcement crosses a red line that may later form the basis for a vote of no confidence. Still, while the anti-Netanyahu bloc in Knesset may be holding on to more sway, rival Lapid is no closer to forming a coalition than Netanyahu is, meaning it's still very possible that the nation heads back to fifth elections anyway. So what does all this mean for the country? Will Netanyahu's reign as Israel's longest-serving prime minister actually come to an end? And if so, what will the new government look like, especially considering that the deadlock is still as bad as ever? Joining me to discuss, political commentator Tami Molad-Hayo and Jeremy Salton, political strategist and director of English operations for the Yamina Party. Thank you both so much for being with us. Now, Jeremy, I'll actually start with you. Are we moving forward with any of these developments, or is this insignificant news as our stalemate amidst our stalemate situation right now?
Well, you know, on one side you can say it's symbolic. On the other side, you can say that it's significant. I think in another week or two, we'll be able to go back to yesterday and really understand where that date fell within what happened afterwards. Obviously, this is something that's a blow to Netanyahu, and it's something that's a big victory for Lapid. And Lapid deserves credit for being able to pull this off. Very few people expected Mansour Abbas to go ahead and jump over from Netanyahu over to Lapid. A lot of people did not see Gideon Sa'ar being willing to vote for such a thing, knowing the things that Mansour Abbas got in the package deal in order for support for this. So, you know, I'll take my hat off also to Lapid and be able to pull this off. we'll see if it matters, but it's hard to know at this point.
Well, Tommy, I want to bring it over to you. Same, what are your thoughts and what are Netanyahu's options at this point? Is his reign over, or could he possibly still pull through?
Well, we can all hope, but actually we're just spectator in a big game. It's a game. It's nothing more than a political game. Everybody is stretching their political muscles, and that's it. Because it was a victory for Lapid, but it was not. Netanyahu didn't lose here. It's not that significant because he can still stop the Knesset from passing whatever he wants. The stalemate is still here. Whether Netanyahu will form a government or Lapid Bennett will form a government, it doesn't matter. Whatever government we're going to have is not going to survive for long because they just don't have the enough players to play a long run game. Neither one of them.
So, Jeremy, where's Naftali Bennett in all of this? Because if it comes down to fifth elections or sitting in a possible coalition with Lapid on Arab parties, etc., he has previously said that he would do anything to avoid fifth elections. Will he stand by that?
Yamina stands by that position. Naftali said in every public appearance he's had since the election, they're just going to do what's right for Israel and do everything possible to go ahead and prevent a fifth election. And that's exactly what he's going to go ahead and do.
That means sitting with Lapid and the Netanyahu bloc, which includes Arab parties?
We can talk about hypotheticals and scenarios from here till tomorrow. The current scenario that we're dealing with right now is that Netanyahu has the mandate. Bennett was very happy to meet with both.
But he doesn't have the votes.
Okay, so he met with both Netanyahu and Lapid before we got to the president's residence. As I told you, time and time again, that we nominated Bennett for prime minister in the president's residence. The president saw what happened with the nominations, the three candidates. He made a decision to give it to Netanyahu. As we said, we would sit with whoever got the mandate. Netanyahu got the mandate. That's why we're sitting with him. We think that beyond anything else, Israelis just want a government. They don't care if it's right. They don't care if it's left. They don't care, frankly, who's in the government. They just want to see a government. They want to see an end to this countless election after election. And we're going to do everything that we can to be able to stop that. It's very difficult to go ahead and talk about further mandates or scenarios. We're in one right now where Netanyahu has the mandate. That's where we're living right now. We're working on that. If that doesn't work, and like you said, it's going to be very difficult at the current point, and I agree with you on that, for him to be able to realize his mandate. But assuming that he's not able to, we'll see what the president decides. By the way, there are four options in terms of what the president can do once he gets to the end of the 28 days. But
he could give the mandate to Lapid. He could allow the Knesset members to vote for somebody, or he could.
Well, he doesn't necessarily need to give it to Lapid. He could give it to Bennett. He could extend the mandate for Netanyahu and become very active. But look, there are different things that can happen. Instead of going through all the scenarios, let's see what the president decides. Right, we're right now at the end of the 28-day period, or at least in the second half. Let's see what happens with what Netanyahu.
Tommy, I want to come back to you again. Is it possible that the anti-Netanyahu bloc could actually form a coalition that is viable, especially long-term? We know that Lapid has been calling more and more for a centrist unity bloc, which I assume would require some of the right-wing bloc, the pro-Netanyahu bloc, to jump ship.
Well, I doubt it very much, but I think one thing has happened. I think Bennett is not he's not the key player anymore. Abbas is again, and we'll have to wait. But I really don't see a government. It doesn't matter who heads the government. I really don't see a government that will last long, because at the end of the day, they have to deal with issues that they just can't agree upon. I think maybe the deal breaker can be if the ultra-Orthodox will decide not to stay with Netanyahu, and that is also a possibility. But I doubt whether Lieberman will be able to sit with them or Meretz will be able to sit with them. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think whether Netanyahu is prime minister or not prime minister is the only issue at hand here.
So what impact? What impact, if any, might this arrangement committee overturning have on Netanyahu's bid to pass a one-time direct vote for prime minister?
Well, without a minister of law, without the committee working, then there will be no law will be passed, none whatsoever. And at the end of the day, I think Netanyahu also knows that it's not viable anyway. It's just like a test that it's part of the game. He's playing the game. He wants to see how the public will react, how the politicians will react, but that's about it. Nothing more.
All right, Tami Moladhayo, Jeremy Sultan, thank you both so much for being with us. All right, now moving on, in a symbol of triumph, Israel's last remaining COVID wards are closing as infections continue to drop. The spread rate likewise down now to just 0.3% and falling. And Hadera Hospital Director Dr. Miki Dudkowitz praising the closures, saying they will now be able to properly allocate staff to deal with the increasing needs of their other internal medicine departments, which have long been suffering, understaffed because of the pandemic. Meanwhile, following initial hiccups over stalled payments to Pfizer and Moderna, Israel announcing the acquisition of millions of additional vaccine doses at the projected cost of between 1 and 1.5 billion shekels.
בימים האחרונים שוחחתי שוב עם ידידיי, מנכ"לי פייזר ומודרנה. היו כמה מכשולים בישראל שהיינו צריכים להתגבר עליהם, מצאנו דרך להתגבר עליהם, ואם לא יהיו הפתעות בדמות וריאנט קורונה שהחיסונים לא מתגברים עליו, אז חתמנו על רכש של מיליוני חיסונים נוספים עם פייזר, אני מקווה שבקרוב מאוד גם עם מודרנה. פירוש הדבר שיהיה לנו די ויותר חיסונים, גם למבוגרים וגם לילדים. ישראל שוב תוביל את העולם במאבק נגד הקורונה, לא יהיו יותר סגרים, יצאנו מזה.
Similarly, Health Minister Yuli Edelstein saying that he's pleased that despite the political difficulties, we have reached an agreement with Pfizer, while adding a call to all those who have yet to vaccinate to do so promptly. Speaking of health, how can you be sure that the products you're using daily on your skin are clean, healthy, and effective? Frankly, what does clean beauty even mean? Well, Emmanuel Kadosh went to learn about it straight from the source, taking us behind the scenes at one of the leading Israeli cosmetics brands, SR Cosmetics.
Beauty all starts from within, which means that the products that we use on our skin must be held to an extremely high standard. We're about to take you on a journey showing you all the ins and outs of SR Cosmetics. The Israeli-based brand focuses around creating healthy and rejuvenating skincare and niche lines that always have a really creative concept to them.
SR Cosmetics is considered to be one of the leading brands in Israel in terms of professional cosmetics. It was founded more than 20 years ago by Shuli Rodrig, which in herself, she is a guru of aesthetics and cosmetics. Shuli goes all around the world. She's looking for the best herbs and plants which can make our skin better and improve our appearance. And she knows our skin from within. This is why we can not compromise about anything.
We're going to show you guys a behind-the-scenes look at what it's like to create one of the leading Israeli cosmetics brands, SR Cosmetics.
So here in SR Cosmetics, we believe in clean cosmetics, clean beauty, and clean environment. This is really important because you keep your skin better during the years when you do not give it accessible chemicals. This is why we do not use parabens and silicones, artificial perfumes, artificial colorings, and of course also SLS, which can dry out your skin.
Every detail is considered, from selecting each precious ingredient to create potent, luxurious, and highly effective skincare.
Those ingredients are art craft into formulas that you will never meet. We take our inspirations from arts, from music, from plants, from flowers, and all this goes into our products, and we're here for the passion and the love of beauty. So nowadays we have a website. If you're an end consumer, you will get a specific answer for each of your needs, skin needs. And if you're an esthetician, you can actually hear Shuli whispering in your ear, because we also developed an application, a special app for that, and it mimics and gives everyone the knowledge that Shuli have over the years.
Do you think it makes sense that you look like this and I look like this right now? Later on in the series, we're going to show you guys an in-depth look into SR Cosmetics' specific lines, from the caviar line to the peacock line for men, all the way down to the 24-karat gold line. You guys are definitely not going to want to miss this.
Moving on, Israeli fighter jets are in Greece this week for the 2021 Iniokos military preparedness drill, Greece's largest exercise of this kind. And this while Greek citizens are simultaneously preparing to truly open their borders to international tourists for the first time in what seems like forever. Hannah Rifkin with the details.
Israeli Air Force fighter jets, including F-15s and F-16s, taking off and touching down side by side with forces from all over the region in a landmark display of military preparedness. The Iniokos 2021 exercise taking place at the Andravida Air Base, including all branches of the Hellenic Armed Forces, as well as air support from France, the US, Spain, Cyprus, Israel, and the United Arab Emirates. And the joint military forces reportedly simulating combat scenarios against a range of threats over enemy territory. This in addition to strengthening strategic international ties. Meanwhile, in a similar bid for increasing international cooperations, Greece officially opening its doors to vaccinated and COVID-negative tourists from the EU, US, UK, Serbia, UAE, and Israel, without the need to quarantine. And this after having shuttered luxury resorts and tourism-centered industries since last year. Members of the industry and the government both excited for their livelihoods to resume.
As you see, it's a daily routine. We are preparing the hotel in order to start as soon as the government gives us the green light to open. Preparations have not stopped since a few months ago. We expect the final protocols of the hotels that will be followed. We are ready.
We have much more tools in our hands and much more data in our disposal. This year we have the vaccines, we have the rapid, and we have the self-tests. We have the COVID hotels, and I believe that we can offer an even better hospitality and a higher standard than even what we did last year.
Finally, Greek ports of entry likewise opening to the rest of the world May 14th. Industry leaders hoping that visitors will take advantage of the reopenings despite unease over potentially returning restrictions.
If normalization will be introduced here by June, I think that by July COVID will be in the past. But if that's not the case, then we're facing an unknown environment and it's going to be very difficult for businesses, yes.
In similar news, Israeli partnerships across the world are getting stronger by the day. The latest effects of the landmark Abraham Accords coming to fruition on Monday, with Sudan abolishing its decades-old law boycotting Israel. The law passed in 1958 forbidding any diplomatic and economic ties to the Jewish state. So with that, Sudanese can now conduct business with Israelis and can travel to Israel freely, including just to visit relatives, as roughly 6,000 Sudanese are living in Israel today. Additionally, the move overturning the up to 10-year prison sentence for violators of the law. But most importantly, the normalization showing a sharp turn from its original role in forming the infamous 3 no's, which are no peace with Israel, no recognition of Israel, and no negotiations. The trio of rejections being approved in Sudan at the Arab League Summit of 1967. Now let's take a look at the weather forecast with Hannah Rifkin.
Hey, happy Tuesday. Still not a night for stargazing, unfortunately. Lows cooling, but still pleasant in the 50s or teens in Celsius this evening. Then tomorrow, Wednesday, more partly cloudy skies with highs expecting to be in the 70s and low 80s for the most part, or mid to upper 20s in Celsius. It's cooling off a bit, but still be careful midday because it's going to be super hot.
And now, before we go, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. That was very depressing. All right, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.25 shekels to the American dollar and 2.6 shekels to the Canadian dollar. And finally, for the latest updates and news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel as well as to our newsletter at iltv.tv. I'm Aaron Porras. Be well, and thank you so much for watching.